Been getting a lot of questions about microphones recently because of the popularity of some of my close personal friends that I've done some engineering for, and as happens a lot in the gear conversation, people focus on the specific thing. You know, what's the brand and model of this mic you used, and I'm trying to take the opportunity to remind everybody that you should absolutely use the best tools that are available to you as an artist, but you absolutely should not sweat what tools are not available to you, except in perhaps an aspirational way. If you're capturing your art successfully, the 10-20% that you're going to gain by having a really amazing piece of gear is just icing on the cake. Nobody's mad at jam records for sounding terrible or replacements records for sounding terrible. They're amazing records. But there are two aspects I want you to pay attention to if you really think you need more information about choosing vocal mics and placing vocal mics. I'm going to tell you two things, one of which is about microphone topology and one of which is about placement, and I think this is really all you need to know to get started. Number one. More importantly, I want you to notice two things. We'll see if the camera can capture this pretty good. There's essentially two ways to terminate a large diaphragm capsule. Edge termination and center termination. And they're really easy to tell apart because the edge termination, the connector's on the edge and there's no dot in the center. And the center termination, there's a little screw in the center and it's terminated there. Now, this divides the category of large diaphragm condenser mics into two very big categories. And I think it's really the first fundamental thing you should learn to pay attention to when you're trying to learn what mics you like on what. Edge terminated, this includes the AKG family, so your C12s, your 414s, I believe Sony C37s are also like that, and you can fact check me on that one because I'm not 100% sure I'm remembering it accurately, but I just generally call this like AKG termination. Center terminated is your Neumann termination, so like most of your Telefunkens, your Neumanns, all Neumann copies, stuff like that. You know, not every Neumann uses this, but the biggies, 87s, 67s, 47s are center terminated. So edge terminated, center terminated. Edge terminated tends to have an airier, brighter, extended top end, maybe up like 12K, 14K, up near the limits of what you're going to hear. There's a little bit of a lift up there that's going to give you the perception of like some air. The center terminated capsule, that's going to have a little bit of a presence bump a little lower, like maybe somewhere between 5-7K. And that to me is the most dominating factor when you're trying to pick a mic. Like if you run into a problem and you can't have the 87 and you need to know what can stand in for the 87, it's going to be another center terminated microphone. Additionally, it's really great with singers to just try them on one of each. And I think you should have one of each laying around when you're trying to work with a singer. Just to figure out which one sounds better on which person. Once you do that, there's some little magic things about each type of microphone. If you like, old 414s are great, or C12As are great, or of course 251s are amazing. They all fall into this category, and they're good on certain voices. And then your 47s, your 67s, your 87s are all here. And then most microphones that people build, even if they're not direct copies of one of those, big of a big microphone, they're going to be center terminated or edge terminated. So if you're evaluating a mic that you don't know or is not a famous mic in some way, it's a good way to just categorize them in your mind. Second thing you got to know is placement. Contrary to what everybody will tell you, and you can feel free to at me because this is just what I believe, the sound does not come out the hole. The sound doesn't come out of the hole on anything. The sound doesn't come out of the hole of the kick drum. The sound doesn't come out of the hole in the upright bass. The sound doesn't come out of the hole in the acoustic guitar. The sound doesn't come out of the hole of a trumpet. The sound doesn't come out of the hole of your voice. What comes out of here is a lot of sibilance, brightness, top end, and some stuff that you do want to capture a little bit of, but it's not the bulk of the sound you're trying to capture. If you find yourself using like 15 different plugins on your vocal chain and wondering why they used to do classic singers with just a microphone and a single compressor with no EQ, it's because they would take time to place the microphone properly. Also, when you try to mic the hole, you get a lot of stuff that you don't want. You get a lot of lip noise and a lot of saliva noise and a lot of breathing noise. Also, you get humidity, breath on the capsule, which over time will age the capsule poorly and will cause your once great microphone to start sounding like shit. You don't really want to breathe on the capsule if you can avoid breathing on the capsule. Additionally, if you avoid miking the hole, and the way I would describe the hole is like where you feel wind when you are talking. If you just put your hand in front of a singer, if you feel wind, you are in front of the hole. If you can get the microphone away from the hole, now you don't need to use a pop filter, and so your top end is going to be a little better, and you're just going to capture a little more of the air of the room. I know pop filters make a very tiny impact on sound, but to me it's a big deal. I want to capture a lot of sparkle and air, and I don't want to have to use an EQ to get it back, and so I don't want to put anything between the singer and the microphone that I don't absolutely have to put in there. You'll notice that, like, because this is a drum overhead mic and doesn't go near anything humid or that pushes air, I was able to pull the inner screen out of this. If you're going to use the mic properly, you can pull that screen out, and it does sound a little bit better. You know, again, we can split hairs about how big that difference is, but it makes a difference. So, okay, you're trying to get away from the hole. What is it that you want to do? You want to do one of two things. If your singer is thin sounding, or if you want to try to capture the maximum amount of like warmth and depth out of the voice, this is especially good on like singers with higher voices or with thinner voices. You want to bring the mic in from below, and you want to position it so that when they're in their comfortable singing position, they're singing a little over the capsule, you know, maybe about 8-12 inches away, and point it ever so slightly at the sternum right here. And you'll get a ton of warmth, and suddenly you'll be able to dig deep on your LA2 without having to put a limiter in front of it, and it'll sound wonderful musical, and you'll be like, why didn't I do this before? And it's because you can't do it when you do it like this. It doesn't work. This is really only good for very quiet, very, very intimate vocals where you're going to be very quiet. Anyone singing normally does not need to sing right here. Okay, and then secondly, if the singer's kind of dark or closed sounding, or if you just want to maximize the amount of air they're getting, you bring the mic in from above them, and you position it so that they're kind of like looking up at the capsule very slightly, and so that the wind is going under the capsule, and then you point it ever so slightly kind of like at the little bridge of the nose right there. Bridge of the nose, or maybe a little spot right there, whatever you call that. Now you're not getting the wind noise. Again, you're not going to have to high pass it. You're not going to have to de-ess it. You're not going to have to put a limiter before the compressor. You probably are going to use half the EQ you've been using, and you just let them sing here. Now, anytime you're getting closer, it should be for a particular reason. Either there's like a particularly intimate sound you're trying to get, or you're in a really noisy environment and you can't afford the bleed. But anytime you're cutting vocals alone, just get that mic away from the singer. Just get it away from them, 8-12 inches, and get it out of the path of the wind, and just put it somewhere where they can kind of comfortably sing at it without it getting in their space. And you'll be amazed at how much better your results are and how much less processing you need to make it sound good. So good luck. Let me know how you do.